The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is The West Stand, a show we debuted this season. It's out on a Monday and Friday. You can find it in YouTube and in your podcast app, where we welcome guests from across the world of Leeds United. I'm Dan Moylan. With me is Michael Normanton.
Hello.
And it's not long till Christmas now, is it, Michael? Discounts galore to be had in the January sales. What could you get somebody for a amazing Christmas gift, a virtual Christmas gift?
What, a subscription to NordVPN? Do you know what?
So. A virtual private network.
It's not the worst idea as a Christmas gift, you know. As a men of a certain age, we are very hard to buy for.
Yeah.
This is something actually of use.
Damn straight. And if you're going, let's say, if you're going to a hotel over Christmas to stay with relatives, or an away fixture, for example, we've got a couple of those, and you don't want to make sure that they don't like hike the price because they know that you're coming back to look again. You're checking the price. You're going back again. They're up to sneaky tactics like that. Some of them.
That is true.
So
keep an eye. That they're going to buy this eventually.
Sneaky that. It's ever so sneaky.
Underhand.
Yeah, so you can make sure that they don't sting you for that, for the price of your hotel room. The important bit is you can watch sporting events from around the world or sporting events in the UK as if you were somewhere virtually.
If you wanted to get out of Hull, get yourself over to France or Germany or something and watch a 3 o'clock kickoff.
And who wouldn't? NordVPN.com/TSB. It's a 2-year discounted package that's there. They'll give you 4 months bonus extra on top of that. The fastest VPN in the world. To get it, go to NordVPN.com/TSB, and it's a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee on that as well. NordVPN.com/TSB. The link is in the episode description box. And if you're on YouTube, I think we've got to point at one corner of the screen, so it's probably up there. Somewhere.
Click a thing. Thank you.
And time to welcome our guest now, then. Former Leeds United title-winning left-back, it's Tony Dorigo. Welcome back.
Hello.
Thank you for coming back. Fresh off a trip to Preston at the weekend. Not a great performance, safe to say, but a good point scrambled at the death. What's your take on it?
I think you're right. I think getting a point in the end was pleasing. That the boys really did keep going. But looking at the game overall, it was one of a little bit of frustration, I think, again, because these away performances against teams that are decent. They work hard. They're solid. They set up well, but we have way more possession. We have more chances, and we just can't seem to get the job done somehow. So a little frustrating, but I think that the spirit is certainly there, and the boys kept going right to the very, very end. But we'll take that point and kind of move on. But we have to be a bit better. We really have to improve that.
Have you played in games like that where it's just not quite firing, and you feel like you deserve more from it, and you're scrambling around trying to rescue a point when it just feels like it's ever out of reach? At
times, yes, but I probably played in teams which it's been more mixed. In that sometimes you might take all 3 points where you probably don't deserve it. So what I look at this side is we don't seem to be on that side of it very much. It's more though the case of underperforming or underachieving. What we should do.
Do you think this side is maybe underperforming, underachieving away from home? It needs to up its game a little bit in the upcoming sequence of fixtures away from home.
I think there's no doubt. There's no doubt, because you just look at the way that we play at home, how strong we are, how many goals we're scoring, how we control things, and we just can't quite produce the same results away from home. And the teams we're playing against, they're decent, but we certainly look the better side. But our little mistakes that we make, I get punished. And if we have 3 or 4 chances, we might take one, we might take none. So that's an equation that has to change.
I don't know about you, Michael. Do you get a sort of creeping sense that, or it's a creeping worry rather than a sense, that the other promotion contenders are winning games that we haven't won earlier in the season, and that's causing just a little bit of doubt to creep in at the minute? I'm thinking specifically Sheffield United went to Millwall, for example. We saw the game. Burnley have turned around a deficit at Norwich to win there, where Leeds came away from both of those games dropping points. It's particularly away from home that I think that creeping sense is coming in. What do you think?
Well, you keep saying it's one of those.
As if
it'll correct itself across the season.
I said that particularly about Blackburn. I think Blackburn, I was prepared to let it go on the basis that you lose some games, but you can't keep repeating that, is my stance on it. And as I said on the match ball over the weekend, they need to turn this around, I think, and get a couple on the board. I don't know.
It's undoubtedly feeling like a pattern now across from, right, if you go back right to the start with West Brom, where neither team tried to score, but then you have like Norwich, Millwall, Bristol, Blackburn, Preston. When you're kind of racking up these games, and they're all quite winnable. It's undoubtedly an issue, and I'm not entirely sure what we've attempted to do to correct it, other than just throw on some more strikers or attacking players towards the end of games. That seems to be the default way of dealing with this.
What do you think, Tony? Is it do you see form and order to what happened late on at Preston there, or is it throw everything at the wall and see what sticks?
Well, I think we have got a strong squad, so our bench clearly will have a lot of good attackers on there. And when you need a goal, you're going to put them on. I just think there's times that I'm not sure what the manager can actually do, in that he sends his side out, with some really good players. We have a lot of possession. We have those chances. It's not him that can put it in the back of the net. And then you look at the goal that we conceded at Preston. So, Rothwell's just kind of overran the ball in an area which maybe he shouldn't have done, but it is on the edge of their box. Then all of a sudden, it comes out. Strout gets turned. It's a great run from their striker. The ball across should never kind of get there. We don't quite bust a gut to trap the back stick. And then it goes on target, and Meslier kind of then pushes it into the corner. He should have done a little better as well. So it's like a lot of instances where it could have been stopped. Whereas oppositely, we have to score a really good goal. We don't get, I don't think, those sort of 4 or 5 mistakes and then we can score. We will produce something special. Whereas the goals we give away, that one, certainly was imminently stoppable.
As a defender, do you see them not switching off, but sometimes not being quite set on, not quite ready? I noticed it a couple of times against Middlesbrough, particularly at Ellen Road, where the ball would change hands. Middlesbrough would then try and break on us quite quickly. And it felt like some of our players weren't quite ready or were just a little bit out of position. I don't know if that was just my fear talking when you see a team, countering on you, or
I feel like partly it's just the way we play, isn't it? Because
we're so attacking.
We do push up the pitch, and the fullbacks in particular push on an awful lot. So it means if you do get turned quickly and there's a ball in behind, we do inevitably struggle a bit with it. It's just for 90% of the time, it's not a problem because no one tries to attack. Right. It's just the odd breakaway. And I guess then when you get the odd breakaway, that's when you're relying on Bogle getting back to cut the cross out, or Meslier saving a very savable shot. And whether you can put it down to luck at this point, I've no idea. But it feels like far too often the opposition's only shot of the target goes in.
Right. What do you think, Tony, from a pro's point of view?
I would agree. I think the way that we play, we have a lot of possession. We will put the fullbacks up as wingers most of the time. Hence why then, Tanaka or someone has to then sit in front of the back two. And on the counter, we're always going to be wary. But I think that's where certainly Daniel Farke likes the element of control. He likes to maybe a bit more cautious than I would at times in that midfield area. And that's exactly why, in that the counter attack, we have to always be aware of that. So rather than trying to go and win 6 or 7, he'll get to 1 or 2 and keep it kind of tight. But it's for those moments. But they're so few and far between, and you have to be prepared for those. And that's when you really need to be switched on. It's like a goalkeeper as well. When you're not involved for such a long period of a game, it's that one moment that you are needed for, and then that's what you have to concentrate on. I remember John Lukic in the dressing room before a game. We wouldn't talk to him for about half an hour. He didn't want to be talked to. He was getting this mental zone because what he knew was actually he won't be needed very much, but when he was needed, then he has to be razor sharp, even if he's sat there for half hour doing next to nothing. And that's what I think we all, as a defence and midfield, need to do. And I just thought we weren't quite that, were we, with that Preston goal?
Just looking at the stats from the game, we had 18 shots, only 4 of which went on target. So you were talking before about trying to put the ball in the net. Are we doing enough to try and put the ball in the net in those moments? Are we committing enough bodies forward, or is it an accuracy error that you're seeing in terms of like shooting and finishing?
I looked at the stats. Who scored the most goals in the championship? We score a load of goals. We score an absolute hatful of goals compared to others. So it seems weird to complain about that, but there is no doubt that you just mentioned it there, how many shots that we had and hitting the target 4 times. I mean, that's not a good ratio. That has to improve. That has to be better. So what is it? Are we shooting at the wrong time? Are we not good enough? Do we need to improve? Lots of things. I think it's a bit of everything there as well. A couple of times I saw Peru wasn't getting involved much in the game, so he comes out 25, 30 yards, and then he goes for a shot when he's 30 yards out. That clearly is the wrong option. So things like that. So a little bit of frustration kind of seeping in as well. And then you look at the Aronson chance. It was just, bouncing, and he took it as it bounced kind of at its highest. And, of course, leaning back, and that was that. That was another one that went missing.
Another 3 points for for the rugby team.
I think if we're isolating one area of the team that has gone wrong most this season, it is the 10 and 9. We've not quite settled on it, have we? And it feels like there's still probably another twist to go in this season. It'll either be someone will get in as a 9, like Joseph might get in, score a goal, stay in, go on to get 15, or we'll buy a number 10 in January, or Nonto will move to 10 and that'll work. But it's never quite clicked, has it? And I feel like Aronson is, well, he's good at a lot of stuff. The vision you need for a number 10, I don't think he's particularly got it.
Mm.
Well, I think we've seen it in flashes. And I would say to you, I think the Blackburn game, Aronson, should he have played or not? I thought maybe a change might have happened then. But then I thought against Borough, I thought he played really well. And suddenly those turns and, he's doing it in the right areas, in the box and making things happen. But I take your point in that's what we're after. We need that level, all the time. But
Is it more about consistency there than performance? Because you can get the good performances out of him, but you're also getting the occasional stinker or a bit of a non-event, really.
It is consistency, yeah, for sure. But at the same time, we have a lot of players. I think you mentioned one there, Nyonto, that could come in. I remember him playing, was it Sheffield Wednesday away, when he floated around, and Aronson and him were absolutely fantastic. So there are some solutions there, but it's just finding the right solution.
I do agree that Aronson was better against Middlesbrough, and I wonder if that was because he's very Red Bull schooled, isn't it? And that was a much more transitional game because they had a lot more of the ball. So when we got it, you were winning it back against a team that was a bit more out of shape because they were set up to attack.
Yeah.
Whereas for the majority of our games, you were just sat with the ball in front of 10 players quite often.
And it's in front, I think, are the two key words there as well.
Yeah.
Because the way that we play and the patient build-up means that we often face banked defenders and midfielders, don't we? And you're trying to almost tease a way through them.
Yeah. And I think in those situations, Aronson is lacking a little bit. He's good in the very quick moments, but yeah, he's not necessarily seeing the through ball in the same way as like in the the goal against Middlesbrough. It's Pirro who plays it through, isn't it? But he just plays it quickly, and I feel like sometimes we don't see enough of that from Aronson when he's in the number 10. But then if you play Pirro there, we get frustrated for other reasons, don't we? Because he drifts in and out of games and doesn't get involved enough and doesn't kind of put himself about in the same way. So we've got between the whole squad, we could build a perfect number 10, but as a in one person, I just don't think it's there.
Yeah, but then again, that's Championship, I suppose, isn't it? Because your perfect number 10 isn't playing in the Championship.
Yeah, you're right. What I would also add, I think, for Aronson, that he works his socks off.
Yeah.
I think he's got a great attitude. He tries, and for that, I give him a lot of credit.
Yeah. Just looking on the flip side of those stats, Preston had 5 shots, 2 on target, 2 big chances. We had 2 big chances, so it speaks to possibly how we're attacking a little bit in some of these games. Maybe that is the conundrum that Farke needs to solve when it comes to the away games. And to that point and the away form, I mean, you lived through 1992-93, Tony, where we struggled tremendously away from home when we were defending champions, and it was the home form that season that effectively kept us in the Premier League, the first season of the Premier League. So what is it that's different between home and away? I mean, I think we can appreciate almost the general sort of sense of it as fans, but from a player's point of view, what is it that's different there? How do these things be so disparate in the end?
We keep telling ourselves there shouldn't be any difference. It is still a football pitch with a goal at either end, and doesn't matter where it is, home or away. But clearly there is. The support makes a heck of a difference. I think the Ellen Road home support is something else, and you get it on the right side of you. During the Championship winning side, we never lost at home. So, and that was a big part played by the fans as well. It was more to do with the teams coming to Ellen Road and fearing what was going to happen, because not only was it the team in the tunnel, but it was you guys out there. So that was great. Obviously, you lose all that away from home. You lose that, but then there comes a point where, for us, certainly that 92-93 season, none of it made sense, and we just got in a right muddle, a right mess, trying to change things. And we did all sorts of different things as well. And the boss, preparing different. Suddenly, we're going for walks on the morning, and then we're not going for walks. Then we're going to go training on the morning, and then we're not doing that. We're going to do something different, and then we're going to change the time we ate, change all of this stuff. We kept trying to do different.
Is it all stuff around the edges?
Yeah, all around the edges. But really, when you stop and peel it back, it's none of that. That isn't the issue. It's just that we weren't very good away from home, and when we conceded first, it just got worse and worse as the season progressed. And and I look at nowhere near as bad, obviously, this team here. But when we concede first, sometimes, how do you guys feel? Because I'm thinking, oh, here we go. They're going to stack it. Their defense. How are we going to break this down now? And we might not get anything from this game. And that has happened a few times. Well, we had that kind of all season. And even if we were 2-0 up, we're thinking, oh God, if they get one, we are struggling. And we'd go back to 2-2.
So is that in your own
Mental,
head?
Yeah, it was. It was definitely. It got to us. It was just such a weird time, and we tried everything, changing all sorts of stuff, but realistically, that wasn't the problem. It was just this mental issue that we really struggled with.
One crumb of comfort, I suppose, out of this, I'm just looking at the home and away form tables. We're top of the home form table, so people will be saying, well, if it wasn't for the home form, we'd be in trouble now. But I think, can we not say, actually, the home form is so good, it allows us a little bit of leeway with the away form. And Sheffield United, who are top, are only 3 points better off than us, but they've played one more game as well. So if we can convert maybe a couple of these draws into wins, then we're right up there with them. Is it a marginal improvement in the away form you'd like to see?
Yeah, clearly. But I think overall, you look at how many points we've got, and I always was told, Howard would always say the same thing as well. You're chipping away at 2 points per game on average. As long as you're there or thereabouts, come March, then you start to have a look where you are, and then you've got a great chance. And that's exactly where we are. We need to be calm. I always look at Christmas as well as just so important, such a big period. And then I've looked at the fixtures, and other teams, they're going to be playing each other at the top, and we're not. So they can't all get full points. So it is in our hands, and it always will be in our hands to see how we get on. But this period, as a professional footballer, I know you're all thinking about turkey. I know you did a roast yesterday. You were practicing for your Christmas lunch.
Yep.
Well, I'm thinking of, right, this is a lot of games, short period of time, lots of points. This is about, we can really take a big leg up in the league.
I need to stress as well, in much the same way that a marathon runner doesn't do a full marathon in the run up to a marathon. You stop at 20 miles or whatever. You're obviously speaking from vast experience here. It was a roast chicken, not turkey. No pigs in blankets or anything like that. It was just, does the gravy work? What are my timings? What's going in which device? Because a household full of air fryers.
You've got a lot of air fryers.
I've got a lot of air fryers. To more important matters, though, and yeah, the next 5 for Sheffield United, they go to Cardiff this coming weekend. But then you've got, as you say, Tony, you've got Burnley at home on Boxing Day, West Brom at home on the 29th. 2 really difficult fixtures then, which may chip away a little bit, hopefully, at their home record. Then they go to Sunderland, and then they go to Watford, neither of which will be easy. So there is a window of opportunity. So to a certain extent, do we have to set aside short-term immediate concerns that rise up out of these games and just remember there is a bigger picture here?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what the players will be doing. They'll be now trying to learn some lessons from the last game, but really, really focusing on the next one. And that's all you can do. And I know it's a boring cliche, but that's why you do it. You can't look too far ahead, but also you got to kind of stop and have a look where you are. And actually, we're in a great position. I'd be delighted to be just 3 points off the top. And we've got a couple of games left for the first round of games, and then I'm looking at the opposition that we've played so far and which ones really kind of scare me. There's none of them. There's not an outstanding side there to worry about, and so you should be looking forward to a lot of good things coming.
I think the next few away games are key though, because Stoke, Derby, and Hull are all very, very winnable games, and I think if we don't win at least probably 2 of those, we identified the reason we're not probably going to go up. Because it's cost us last year as well. Because you think last year we went to Rotherham and Huddersfield and Birmingham. I know Birmingham admittedly were in the. It wasn't Wayne Rooney's Birmingham, which was unfair. But we didn't get to face them. But we went to quite a lot of teams down the bottom end and didn't pick up points last year. I didn't pick up wins anyway. And Stoke last year again. That was another one where we turned up.
Don't mention Stoke.
We turned up thinking, we should probably win this. There was a bit of rotation, and it just never happened, did it?
Yeah. Well, they're going to be up for it, aren't they? This day, it'll be a different proposition this year, I think. But with it being Boxing Day, it'll have that sort of festive air about it. They're going to be fired up for it. It'll be a big crowd, but we will definitely have a full strength team out there. Injuries permitting. We're not going to be trying the rotation again, are we?
No, but everyone will be fired up, and we're going to be fired up. You expect that. That's what comes with Leeds United in the Championship. Every single side we go to at their place are going to be fired up, but we should use that, as fuel and really, get out there and get a result. You're right. You look at the Millwall, the Blackburn, the Prestons now that, those games recently, we need to get better. Yeah.
Win at home, draw away, but convert some of those draws into wins. That works for me. And then we got two of your former clubs, actually, isn't it? Derby as well on the 29th. I know we kind of steamrolled them at Ellen Road, but again, that'll be a different proposition down there.
Always will. The home crowd, Preston, they didn't have much of the ball, and suddenly they get one attack, and the crowd goes crazy. That isn't normal, but that's what it's like when we come to town, and that then adds to their confidence. And suddenly, they're not behind after 15, 20 minutes. They start to think, actually, we might be able to score here, and that confidence starts to grow. And we have to knock that confidence back, right from the very first whistle.
Talking of playing over Christmas as well, it's your birthday at the end of the month.
It is.
So happy birthday in advance of
Thank
that.
you. Forgotten how many.
And the reason we know this is because you are on our charity calendar, along with Gary McAllister, who's a Christmas Day.
He is.
Christmas Day birthday. I wonder what's it like playing over the Christmas holidays, because we all generally, by and large, associate it with time off, and having a bit of a break from work, going to see lots of football. But I suppose for footballers, it's a time it's crucial in terms of number of fixtures.
Yeah.
You want to see where you are when you come out the other side of it. So is this when the mind really locks in? So does it go the other way for footballers?
Completely the other way. I always used to think the harder things were, the better it was for me, in that it's more of a test. I want things awful. I want really bad weather. I want a load of games. I want these foreign players to put their little long sleeves over their hands and think, oh, it's very cold. And then I give them a kick. So
you are definitely talking like an Englishman there, not an Aussie, which we were talking about one of your recent.
True. But what I mean is Christmas is that sort of time as well, where there's a load of games. So I'm thinking at this point, are they going to be looking after themselves like I'm going to? So I'm not going to be drinking. I'm not going to be enjoying all that Christmas lovely lunch that you're going to be cooking. Unfortunately, I can't eat all of that. I'm going to be ready for the Boxing Day game. But there's so many games in a short space of time. It makes a huge difference. So for me, it was a time of making sure that I'm prepared correctly, get the right rest in, the right food, and raring to go. And for players, that's just the way it is. And Christmas Day for me was a non-event, in that we're just going to get down and train at some point, get into a hotel, and we're ready for the Boxing Day game.
Right. Do you get a sense of the rest of the outside world doing its Christmas thing, or is it something, because you were over here from being a teenager and in the football bubble from a very young age, so is it something you even became aware of until maybe after you'd retired?
So obviously growing up and raising my children, what have you, you knew that was all great and exciting, but there was also a bit of me was thinking, right, I've got to get out of here and get away to that hotel and get ready for the game. So I played every Boxing Day and every New Year's Day that was there. So I never really experienced a proper birthday or my Christmas until I retired. And the weird thing was, I was so uncomfortable. The first Christmas, I didn't know quite what to do. Should I be doing this? And then, you know what? I got in the hang of it. No problems at all. So suddenly it all started going down quite nice. So, but it's a weird thing.
Without necessarily naming names, were there any people who didn't take their job as seriously over Christmas and New Year? People who maybe would have turned up in a bit of a worse state?
Yes, I won't mention any names. Carlton Palmer. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. There were one or two that knew the game and suddenly would get their fifth booking or what have you, and miss that particular game.
Surely not. That doesn't go on.
It doesn't go on. Actually, there was a really good one. I think it was Maicon that used to play for Inter with Jose Mourinho, and every Christmas he would always get suspended and go back to Brazil for 2 weeks. And so Mourinho knew this, and he went to Maicon before. He says, I know what you're up to. You've on 4 bookings. You need one more booking. You're not going. If you get booked, doesn't matter. You are staying here. You're training every single day. So Maicon goes, well, if I score a goal, can I go? He goes, no, but if you score 2 goals, you can go. He only went and scored 2 goals and then ended up back in Brazil again for 2 weeks.
Who's the other Brazilian player who's his...
Neymar gets suspended for his sister's birthday, which is altogether strange.
I mean, you've got a sister, and you won't get suspended for a birthday, would you?
No. It's a weird arrangement. It's that whole thing. We'll leave it at that.
It could probably involve counselling and therapists that the route there.
Just because I saw a clip of this the other day, speaking of playing away at Derby, do you recall anything of the game where Leeds got a very late penalty? I think you'd come on. Harry Kewell puts what I thought at the time was a brilliant dive. Looking back at what I now know, Harry Kewell was a disgusting piece of cheating. But do you remember anything of that? Because I think it was like pretty much the last kick of the game that Ian Hart scores a penalty.
I think it was I on the bench, and did I come on?
I think you came on.
Because I tell you why. Because when I was warming up, I got an incredible reception, but not from the Derby fans. It was from the Leeds fan, and everyone was kind of looking on. I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't want to kind of look up at the Leeds fans. I'm playing for Derby, for God's sake. But yeah, I do remember that. And
you came on for Georgia King-Cladze.
I did, and Harry, he actually fell in the box on my right hand side. Yeah, I do remember that.
I was going to say, for what that's worth, I was in the away end there, and I was about at crossbar height on the same side that Kewell went down, and I saw that in glorious Technicolor, that dive. I was like, oh, come on. Yes!
That's our boy.
He's bought it.
Was that Boxing Day?
No, it was early December. It came around the other week because it was the anniversary of the game, so it was it'll have been sort of early.
Yeah, shocking cheating though. I'm very upset about it in retrospect.
Oh, I can tell.
Yeah, I went to the 5. I think it was the 5-0 there as well. Was it at Derby? Was it 5-0?
Yeah, we did have a good win.
That was a good one.
Some good games against Derby across the years, haven't we? With the 4-3 and then the playoff game was exciting in its own way. Eventful anyway.
So like Christmas morning, what's that like for you as a footballer then? So is it a case of seeing the kids open the presents? Were you always given the opportunity to do that, and then then off you go?
And then off you go. Yeah. Well, you'd be asked, I think, when you'd like to train. Either you get it. So if it's an away game, you'd probably train later. So you'd probably stay for a little bit of lunch, but then you'd head off, do a quick session in the afternoon, and then travel to wherever you're going. If it's a home game, a lot of the time we get it done early. So we'd get there, say 9:30, do a quick hour, and then get back to the families or what have you. So it just depends.
So is there a little bit of grumbling as you're arriving at the training ground? There's Merry Christmas, lads. All right. Or is it all upbeat? Or is it just normal?
It's just it's part of it. It's part of your job. It's just the way that it is. Obviously, everyone else is happy and celebrating, but for professional footballers, it's a period which is really important. It can shape the start of the next year. And I just go back to how many games it is. You get it right, you can really springboard yourself up that table. So we all knew the importance of it.
Yeah, to bring it back to the present day then. So we're heading into Oxford at the weekend, a game which I think we're well within our rights to say Leeds United absolutely should win.
Yes.
And then it's away to Stoke, Derby, Blackburn on New Year's Day. So what do we need out of this little Christmas run then? If we box off those 4 fixtures, what do you think we need to come out of this with?
9 points. I think less than that, and people will be upset.
Right.
Depending on exactly how they fall, but we've said before, draws finish you off in this league. If you can throw in a defeat in 4, I think that is fine, but you've got to win the others.
I'd like 10. I think really.
I would too, but I feel like
I want 12.
But I feel like 9 would keep us top 2. I'm pretty confident. So fine.
But I see what you mean, Tony. Actually, because if you do come out of that with 12, then suddenly you're like, yeah, it's game on here.
Well, it is, because other teams are going to be dropping points. We know the fixtures, but there's still a long way to go. We haven't even finished playing all the teams yet. So we've got to play them all again, as well as obviously Oxford and Stoke. So yeah, long way to go. I think it's time to be calm. Talking to Daniel after the game as well. He knows there's still plenty of work to be done. Plenty of improvement, I think, still to be made. But where we are, if we can improve, then we're looking extremely, extremely good.
Did he describe it? I'm right. I haven't misremembered this. Did he describe us as the most emotional club possibly in Western Europe?
Is that what he said?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know if I've made that up or not. He said, it's a very emotional football. Do the voice.
You can imagine.
Yeah, it's a very emotional football club, possibly the most emotional in Western Europe. Is Leeds United? Are we that bad?
Are we that bad? Or are we that good?
Yeah, I think it's both our greatest asset, but also it can also work to our detriment as well, because it does set the bar extremely high at Leeds, doesn't it? Is it a heavy shirt to wear?
It can be. In fact, actually, just yesterday I was doing some tours around the ground with some of our fans. We have these Legends tours. So myself, Don Matteo, and I think it was Paul Reaney yesterday. So we're taking groups of mums and dads and kids around. And in fact, I was talking about that very thing, in that the support is just incredible when you get it on your side. Obviously 91, 92, we're unbeaten. It's all going for us. It is amazing. But opposite to that is suddenly when it isn't going well, players need to be able to handle that. And I think some players find that a bit more difficult than others. Of that, there's absolutely no doubt. So, expectation is there. For me, it was important to feed off of that and use that as a positive. But we all know one player makes a mistake, then he does another mistake, then another mistake, and you hear the crowd then. You can really sense it, can't you? And so can the players. So you need to be a strong character to try and dismiss all of that and just take the good bits away.
Yeah, it feels like that's never too far away from the surface with Leeds, particularly because we're still carrying, I often describe it as existential terror about our place in the world because of the last 15 to 20 years. It's still not settled down, that.
No. I feel the current squad as well, because it was ultimately a failure last year, there's still a bit of distrust, I think, and there's a lack of credit in the bank for most of these players as well. It's still like, well, do something. It feels to be the kind of default setting for it, and the players have been here long enough, like Melier, you're now going, well, you actually owe us a bit here, and Bogle's arrived, and you think, well, it's not been quite good enough. And like you can go through most of the team, can't you, and go, well, Pascal Struijk, you got us relegated too. Not his fault, but you know what I mean? I feel like there's not much credit in the bank, whereas there was a time under Bielsa where Luke Ayling would make mistakes, and for a few games at least you'd go, well, it's Luke Ayling. Let's give him a bit longer. Let's give him a bit longer. There's not an awful lot of that, which means sometimes it can be as simple as someone being a bit too ponderous, and Ellen Road will go, for God's sake, just knock it forward. Or like there'll be someone will knock it out of play, and people,
they're knocking it around at the back,
lose their mind about it.
Yeah,
and it's difficult to play under, I imagine.
Yeah.
So they do have my sympathy, but at the same time, should have gotten up.
But isn't there there has to be an appreciation, like there's a real impermanence about that feeling. Like it's only ever temporary.
Yeah.
When things are all just going great. And that's the same for every football club, surely.
Yeah, and it can turn in a second. The person who's put one out of play, if they put one in the top corner a second later, all forgotten.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine. And in some ways, they're it's an enjoyable thing to be made a fool of sometimes by a footballer when you've gone, he's useless, get him. Oh, he scored. Oh, thank you very much.
I love you.
He's a great lad. I've always said as much.
Hugging strangers.
Why is Aronson coming on? He scored. Thank you.
That's why he's on. But it feels like a heavy shirt to wear from, I think, watching it from the terraces and having seen it over a number of years, players, like you say, who've come and have not carried that burden particularly well. Does this current set, does it have more resilience about it? Maybe based off the failure of last year, that it feels to be made of slightly sterner stuff, or at least we hope so anyway.
Well, we certainly hope so. I think so. I think the learnings of last season, should have sunk into a lot of the boys. Another year of experience. I think the players that we brought in really have fitted in extremely well. Tanaka and Rothwell, my goodness, I think they've been, wonderful in that midfield area. And I'm sure you guys, like me, were thinking, oh no, Ampadu and Gruev have gone. What are we going to do now? And now I can't actually quite remember Ampadu and Gruev in that these guys are doing fantastically well. And all of a sudden, from corner kicks, we're looking like a threat because Rothwell's delivery, is really good. You can suddenly see a bit more belief in our centre halves when we're going for the ball. So some really good things in there. So I do think as a group, they're maturing. Willie Nyonso, I think, has come out and said something similar about himself. You just would like to see, I suppose, Mateo Joseph quickly learn that much quicker and hit the ground running and score some goals. But I think as a group, we look stronger. We do. But I think we can all say that. They can say it. It's the results that matters, and we'll know how strong by the end of the season.
Do you suspect Joseph just needs that spark just to catch fire? Just for, I mean, I know he got the goal technically at the weekend.
Is that being credited to him?
Well, we asked him that. We said afterwards, Matteo, did you get a touch, or is it your goal? He says, well, I think it's my goal. I made the run, so it's my goal. It's my goal. I thought, okay, I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
Answered like a true striker.
Yeah, exactly.
He certainly celebrated it.
Yeah, it feels to me like he probably just needs that little run of games where he has a 2 or 3 go in consecutive games, and then he just starts to find his mojo. I don't know.
I'm with you. I'm with you, and I think it's in there. I'm still surprised it hasn't come out sooner, because I've seen a lot of him. So I'm in pre-season. He was looking like he was ready to fire. Really was. Scored 4 or 5 in that pre-season games. The runs that he makes, and just the last game, was it not Borough? Maybe the one before that, when suddenly he's running near, the ball goes far. He goes far, the ball goes near. It's one of those now. You're thinking, oh no, wherever he is, the ball's not going. That's got to change, and I think he can do it.
Right. So why does that happen then with football? Is that just a luck thing? Is it a confidence thing? Like if you are doing the things you've always done, but you're nowhere near the ball.
It's understanding who you're playing with. So Dan James, I think, is the one that put the ball in, actually, straight across the line. He couldn't get across the defender, so he should have just held out and gone behind the defender, and it would have been a tap-in. But the more you play with these players, the more you then understand what's going. Like when I was with Lee Chapman, I knew exactly I've got to stick it at the back post with a bit of pace on in between the defenders, and he's going to be there. I don't have to think where he is. I know where he's going to be. So I whiz it in, and there he is, bang, far post, it's in. So you need that sort of understanding, and I think it's still coming, isn't it? Dan James, to be fair, is doing really well. I think he's playing.
So is that why stability can be important and consistency at this level? Because you see a lot of squad churn with a lot of teams. So Leeds have had to offload a number of key players in order to balance the books this summer. But it necessitates a certain amount of churn every single summer, and you're putting new players into the mix, perhaps more frequently than, because that side was very settled. It was essentially settled from promotion in 1990 with a little bit of magic added on top. You came in in that summer, for example, and it's building on what's already there. Whereas it feels like at the minute with the Championship, with the way that the finances are set up, and the difference between that and the Premier League is that there's some pretty massive churn every single summer.
You're right.
And it makes it harder as a result.
It does make it harder. And I think for me, defensive-wise is where you really need that understanding. But I look at Rodon and Strauch now. They're looking really good. Those two centre-halves, there's no better in the Championship. I think they're doing great. And going forward, well, you expect a bit more change up top. But it always just takes players a little bit of time to understand, the strengths and weaknesses of their teammates and knowing what they want. But I just think Joseph has got the attributes. We've seen it. We now do need to see it regularly, but I'm with you in that 9/10 position is where we have a lot of kind of change and churn, and we just haven't quite, I think, got it to the level of everywhere else in the side.
And it's nitpicking to an extent, because as you say, essentially that's where you expect goals to come from, and we are still scoring loads of goals. So what are we asking for here? Should we have scored 60 already? 100? At what point do you go, oh, well, this is actually working well?
You're right, but I'd be interested to see how many kind of chances we've had compared to everyone else, shots on target, because we always seem to have 20 to their 6 or something or other. So you put all that together, and then clearly you work it back to how many we've scored, and I think that's where there can be an improvement.
It's interesting that none of the top sides, us, Sheffield United and Burnley, none of us have a high goal scorer. I think Pirro is the top of, between the 3 teams, I think he's the top out of all 3. So it's kind of interesting spin, is like you just expect the top scorers to naturally have their teams push towards the top, don't you? But it's not happening this year.
Well, and then you look at last season, you say, actually, if you stop Somerville, you stop all our goals, because he was, by far and away the top scorer. So at least now we are, kind of spreading them out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just looking at some of the team stats. So we are the highest for expected goals this season in the division. Middlesbrough second, Coventry third. We've got 36.7 and we've scored 37. So we're bang in line with our XG. Highest shots on target per match at 5.5. Middlesbrough 5.1. Then it's down to 4.6 for Cardiff. Big chances. We've got the most in the division. Accurate passes, highest in the division. So yeah, there's a lot of touches in the opposition box.
So why aren't we top by a mile then?
Well, I suppose that is where the slight, I think, fear starts to creep in.
Also, look at the goalkeeping stats.
Well, let's not do that. But I think
You got to put a downer on it, don't you?
Yeah.
that might be why.
Yeah, you're starting to getting to know him now, Tony. But the sense that maybe we should be running away with games more, like, and we're not. When we've got our foot on the throat of a team, is that we're not killing them off sometimes, and it does turn out to be 2-0, which always at 2-0, if they get one back, then suddenly the entire game flips.
Yeah. But you mentioned all those numbers, all those stats, everything else. We're not in a bad position, are we? Really?
No.
You know, we're doing lots of things right. Yes, granted, we can improve, and you can always improve. We know the areas to improve, but yeah, we're doing lots of good stuff.
Right. So hopefully, by the time we get around to Blackburn, hopefully you'll be in a fit state after your birthday on New Year's Eve. Double whammy.
Double whammy.
And what, Leeds top of the league for the new year? Should we go for that?
I would accept.
What about you?
Oh, would you now?
I would.
That's very good of you. That's very good of you. I honestly believe we'll be looking good in the new year. I really do.
Diplomatically said that.
No, I do. I just I am starting to look at the third place side. Yeah, that's what I want. That gap. I want a gap. Yeah. I don't care what it is. That's what I want. I want a gap, and I think we'll get one.
Thank you, Tony. Well, enjoy Christmas this year. And,
you too, and good luck with the turkey rather than the chicken.
Yep. Yeah.
Hopefully, for real, it comes out good.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, and
Cheers.
We'll speak in the new year.
Cheers, mate.
See you soon.
Bye.
The Square Ball Podcast.